Do you like beer?
Do you like podcasts?
Do you like beer podcasts?
Then check out Crackin' One Open, a podcast about brews, news, and pop culture reviews.
Every week, we crack open a new craft beer from breweries around the country.
And sometimes the world.
We'll talk about how it was made, what's in it, the history of the brew, and the brewery.
Then we'll give our tasting notes, and while we're finishing up, we'll talk about some of the latest goings-on in the world of pop culture.
So check out Crackin' One Open with Mike and Elise, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Hello, and welcome to Recent Activity, your new favorite entertainment review podcast that attempts to cover every film, every show, all at once. I am your co-host, Andrew Morgan. With me, as always, is co-host Shane Beauregard. And joining us this week is a special makeup effects artist from such projects as Army of the Dead and all of the Netflix Marvel TV shows, which will make Shane happy. You can hear him every week on the legendary Insufferable Bastards podcast. Mr. Brian Spears, how are you, sir?
Hello. I'm doing well.
I'm glad you're here. You're being civil. This is nice. It's a good start.
We haven't talked about our movie taste yet. I haven't met you guys really yet, so I'll probably insult you by the end.
That's fair.
Probably
yeah, because you're not really in charge of your Twitter feed, which obviously Carlos there, in air quotes, Carlos, likes to tease us and, go back and forth between being like, we're best friends, or I hate your guts and your takes are terrible. So, it's always a lovely time talking with the Insufferable Bastards.
Carlos and I are old school radio fans, so we like the war. We like the battle, and it's kind of like we are all dorks talking about pop culture and movies and TV. But it's no different than the other day I worked with a guy who was a Giants fan and a Dallas fan, which is a whole other world to me, and they were arguing the whole day.
Oh, okay.
So it's the same thing,
Oh, I thought you meant like the same person. One person was a Dallas.
No. It's literally, it was two guys, and all they did, we were working together. All three, four of us are working together, and they just argued the whole time about sports.
Yeah. No, I get that. And thank goodness Shane and I are at least on the same football team stuff. So, and we're terrible. We're the Jets fans that, are going to, be hurting.
But yeah, for the only week, probably all year, the Patriots are in last place. So I'm enjoying this week while I can.
It's true. It's very true. Yeah, and 2 wins for the Jets, even though we don't deserve probably any of them. So it's wonderful. It's a good time to be alive. I'm also a Mets fan. We're like slowly collapsing, but at least we're going to the playoffs.
You guys are really in the bad shape. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing good this year. Yeah. I watched them in 1986. That's when I watched the Mets.
Yeah. I was 4 years old, but it was an early memory that I do remember. So
I have all their baseball. Like I have all that year's baseball cards. I remember that,
Yeah, I have not to get too way off topic, but like I went and Mookie Wilson and Buckner were doing like a tandem tour thing, and I got them to sign a bat, and that was
that's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's the sports I know. My only other, and we'll get off sports quick, but I'll watch all those like sports talk shows just so I feel manly around other men that carry heavier things than me because
Exactly.
I use a paintbrush for work.
Uh-huh.
So I I want to usually try to sound cooler than I actually am.
Yeah,
because yes, I'm just going to be home watching TV anyways.
Yeah, exactly. I try to do that around Shane, actually, because he's like our brute enforcer.
Well, no, he's the guy with Daredevil stuff behind him. I see all those toys. I got the same ones upstairs. I just don't put them on screen.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Mine are signed, but
okay, we have to go there. All right.
Yeah. I was going to say, we're not doing the whole dick measuring contest comparison thing, and then it's like, well,
I'm Irish, guys. I lost. I'll say good night.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to have you here, man. Obviously, you guys are now rebranded as the Insufferable Bastards podcast. You used to be the Mobile Horror Companion.
The Mobile Horror Companion, yeah, we were. Yeah, and it was really tough because as a guy who works in that field, or definitely a lot, I like horror movies, but I like a certain, like a number of years. There was my formative years. So,
right.
Yes, I watch horror movies. They're go-to choices or at least selections, but I don't like a lot of stuff. So it was very hard to do weeks and weeks and weeks of horror movies.
Right.
And how you could package it in any way. And Carlos and I were more like, we just watch stuff, whether it's good or bad. And we were more always, like a 70s cinema fan more than we were, horror.
Sure.
Because again, I mean, in 1 week we could talk about every horror movie that I love. and then it's over with. But we would have to
Right.
come up with something.
Yeah.
So that the rebranding was much happier for us.
Right. But obviously you work a lot in that medium, as you said.
Yes.
Though. So
yeah. I mean, I love it, man. I'm a Fangoria kid. I grew up reading Fangoria magazine.
Yeah.
I loved, but I was a video store kid, and
Sure.
there was a rite of passage to go, like, as a 15-year-old kid, to ride your bicycle to a video store 3 miles away and try. It was more of a. None of these movies were good, but like a Faces of Death or I Spit on Your Grave were more of a rite of passage, or like punk rock kind of to do. You know what I mean? It was like, I feel a little badass doing this.
Oh yeah, I grew up in all of that myself. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of like horror movie holds that for me. And also I loved, it was there was no internet, so I would go through those Fangoria magazines, and it was more and it was probably just because it was a horror magazine. It was just the making of the movies.
Yeah.
And all those little tidbits and the little stories. That's like what I felt like. Horror movies, I'll bash a ton of them, but it's more like, I can't stand, the slasher movies or a Jason movie, but I like to hear how they were made, and I like the stories behind the scenes. So that's always drawn me to like that genre. And horror is very, accepting. You didn't need now it's like more of a Hollywood thing.
Right.
Back then, it felt, you felt tough watching a horror movie. Now everyone watches a horror movie.
Yeah, especially because the grit to them is kind of gone. It's so sheeny, especially because a lot of even the low budget ones now are mostly straight to streaming, so they have that sheen to it a little bit too. So very rarely do you get something that has that older look or the vibe of something like that and still manage
just
to
a little
kind of
sleaze. I want a little grunge. I want a little grunge, a little sleaze, a little like, something that like, that was me being a bad boy, like, hey, like, watching a horror movie, you felt a little like, hey, I'm dangerous. Like,
right.
And so again, and I love it. And it's totally influenced my career.
Sure.
I wouldn't be doing what if there wasn't the Evil Dead 2, I would not be doing what I'm doing, like. But it was more like, wow, that's art. I never looked at like, hey, listen, I was scared of horror movies as a kid, terrified.
Right.
I think I cried that I thought Christine, a car, was going to chase me down. You know what I mean? Like I was, I'm not going to stand here, But then again, I also don't like my horror movies to get too highfalutin. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I still, I got a poster of Dead Heat in my house. I know I will admit I like bad movies as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to make fun of other people that do too.
Yeah. And Shane, I know like you grew up similar to me, like, so your kind of horror taste might align in this as well, because especially you might be, how old are you, Brian, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 48.
Yeah, so Shane's a little older than me, so maybe it's even closer in technique. But yeah, like we're video store kids, and definitely like we had the like the creature features guide and the Fangoria guide, and would just kind of go through like what sounds the craziest, what sounds the dumbest, and be like, ooh, that one has like a cool kill we can watch or something.
Like I rented Luther the Geek just because it was in Gore Zone magazine, and I was there the first day it came out to the video store. I had a local video store here that was legendary. To the point where even a couple of the guys, like one of the guys that worked at Fangoria, used to go to that store. Same thing, because he lives up this way, Mike Gingold.
Okay.
And literally Carlos and I, any spare time we would rent, 12 movies at a time, that type of thing. We were always renting movies. It was. I also didn't have cable. I'm one of the kids like. I wasn't like severely deprived. It was just my dad wanted hooked up a certain way in the house, and back then they didn't do that, and he was like, well, I'll run the wire, and he was like, they wouldn't let him do it, so I never got Fraggle Rock. So like so it was finding those videos, and and again, it was just reading those magazines. And I think you would notice if you listen to our podcast, Insufferable Bastards, I don't like the mainstream, or I get sick of the mainstream. So like I really thought it was like, hey, we're being, like horror movies weren't mainstream in the, you had your select few, and they weren't, what they are today. So polished. That's a perfect, when you said that before, like they're just so like bigger now, they have that sheen to them. Even the low budget ones now know what to do in order for it to get onto topper, you know, a streaming service.
Sure. And that's why I think I've liked a lot more of the ones going to the theater this year. I actually think we're having a pretty good horror year this year. I don't know if you agree with that, because maybe those
I'm
are
always
too
late to the party.
mainstream.
It's
Okay.
like work always comes first, and I'll sit down. Like, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't go to theaters much, but as
Mhm.
soon as, like, I'll pay $20 for a movie in my house because
Right.
maybe I got to watch it Sunday morning at 7 a.m.
Right.
You know, and I know I missed that theater experience, but I, as much as I make fun of movies, I probably, you know, I have a very huge selection of Blumhouse movies, and I make fun of those movies all the time.
Right.
I own pretty much every movie I say I don't like,
Right.
because I still support. Well, I still support it.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go out. And I'm a big guy. Like, I still buy Blu-rays and DVDs.
Yeah.
Like, that's my, like, I don't read books. Like, so that's my library. That's my shelves. It's all movies. It's all filled up. I just went back. I used to have like VHS in the attic, and I'm like, why? You know, I'm already not getting women, so I might as well just throw the VHS into the living room. You know what I mean? Like,
For sure.
so it's that type of thing. So I will, like, go through and watch all these horror movies. It's just, you know, when I'm working on a project, you know, 14-hour days, you know, sometimes I just don't want, on a Saturday, I don't want to go leave my house sometimes.
Sure. So is there something, like, just to kind of like get to know into the taste, into the mind of Brian Spears, like, so what was like maybe the last good horror movie that you did watch?
Oh, I don't even know, because I watched so much. Like, I don't know. What's the last, look, has there been anything out in the last couple of years?
I mean, if you're not going to the theater, that's, you know.
Yeah,
maybe
like, I just
taller.
watch everything. And see, that's the other problem. Like, things are so disposable now. Like, you just,
Yeah.
I watch so much or just stream so much.
Sure.
I'd have to get out my, like, to say, like, I don't know, because I don't know if it was this year. Like, was that movie from this year? Was that movie from,
Sure.
you know? But
Well,
I try to watch everything. If it comes out on an HBO, if it's a newer, you know, I just watched Nope,
Okay.
but that's not really horror.
Yeah. No, not really. It's more sci-fi bent and all that. They try
know,
to have elements.
I just did, because I did have a hand in it. Good Night, Mommy. I just watched it with my nephew.
Right.
You know, like, so I've never seen the original, which I'm going to go back and watch the original, because, you know, I worked on that movie. You know, I'm not going to, you know, it just wasn't that. I didn't know what I was going into, and I was like, it's okay. It was okay.
Yeah. You're in a safe space. We talked about it last week. Shane kind of ripped it to shreds.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
like, and you know, I was actually, like, I watched my stuff, and my nephew and I were watching, and he's like, hey, you want to just watch this and fast forward? And I don't normally do that. And I was like, hey, man, sure.
Yeah.
You know, so also, here's the other thing. When you work on movies, you know, I know nothing about that movie,
Right.
other than it was a remake, and, you know, but I knew the ending because I was there one day for an ending. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
you know, I was there the day before when they were prepping a barn to burn. So I guess a barn was going to burn in that movie. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
so that's the problem with working on certain movies. Like, I know you mentioned, you know, Smile, like,
Yeah.
which is what you called me. And I had done some work on that movie. Like, I know what happens in it. I know all the things. So that's the other problem. Sometimes when you work on a movie, it takes me a few moments. Like, I have to let it die down, and then I'll sit and watch it, because I'm like, we'll try to avoid reviews, even though friends will call me or something, and, you know, hey, you know, and if it's bad, they'll be like, hey, man, that was a piece of crap. Well, I mean,
Right.
I don't write the stuff. I make the monsters, you know,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
you know, help out in that department. So if it's good, you know, I can't take any credit. Like, you know, it's very cool to be asked to do this. Slightly honored.
Yeah. Hey.
Just slightly. But, like, even when you said, hey, you want to, want to come talk about Smile?
Yeah.
Well, all I can really say is, yeah, it was cool for me. Again, my buddy was on that movie. He did way more than I did. He did the, like, day-to-day makeup and gore, like, heavier makeup,
Right.
prosthetic makeup. And then they hired a bigger firm, an LA firm, ADI, Tom Woodruff and Alec Gillis, who are, like, guys that made Tremors.
Right. Oh, wow.
You know,
Cool.
They built the prosthetics. They built a creature for that. And because it was filming in New Jersey, it's strictly a union thing. They called me and said, hey, you know, my buddy recommended me. I got the call. But, you know, while I'm applying this, the guy that played, you know, who played the Gill Man in Monster Squad is standing behind me. All right, just put. So he's like directing me a little bit, So that's cool to say, hey, I put one of their pieces on. You know what I mean? So like that kind of stuff is cool. But yeah, like I'm sometimes like in my career, like these bigger shows, I'm more of a cog in the system.
Sure.
You mentioned like a Army of the Dead.
Right.
There was 100 other makeup artists just like me.
Yeah.
I didn't design anything. They said, this is what you have to emulate. Make
right.
that, so we just made a bunch of the background zombies.
Right.
So like I'm much, it's a great job to have. I get to stand with people like when I used to read the magazines and the books that I buy now. I used to, these are guys that like, legends in the makeup field. And I've got to work with some heavy hitters and
sure.
That's certainly super cool.
Yeah.
But I just go in and do my job. So it's kind of, I'm no different than a carpenter sometimes. This is what I have to have built by the end of the day. And that's the type of thing. It just happens to be monsters or something cool and
sure, that
type of thing. But like, it is weird to like see this movie that's, because people ask like, what did you do? I can't tell you. I mean, I mentioned that I'm working on American Horror Story, which is out into the New York.
Right.
But I can't tell you anything I do, because if I tell you anything,
That's
I'll never work again in New York again. But all these NDAs but also if I tell you something, that might be something that would ruin the show for you.
Yeah. Because I imagine,
I mean? Like,
and you can maybe tell me otherwise, but in Smile, there's really only one kind of creature.
Well, that's a big thing, right? It's a huge, big.
Yes. And
we did another one.
It's the end of the movie. So it's like, if people are just like,
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Where there's a mom that transforms.
That's the one. Yeah.
But it's like, there's a mid stage where there's down a creepy hallway.
Right.
And there's a prosthetic on a creature performer on that. Like it's probably a combination of all of that all melded together.
Right.
Like, tomorrow I'll send you a screenshot of like what I shot.
Yeah, it'd be great.
I'm anxiously awaiting to post the movie, but because the movie has been doing so well and people like, I have like a couple pictures of the work I did along with Lisa Force, another makeup artist.
Right.
I'm dying to post it, but in this world, in the digital world, usually you get to do that fairly quick now because everything is so disposable. But this movie, the ad campaign, it's blowing up. Like, and everything they did seems to be really smart. The one of the guys that the guy that hired me, Jeremy Sellenfred from Monster in the Closet, he sent me a thing, I guess, on Twitter. Even Blumhouse mentioned how he's jealous of this movie. Doing like, I guess it's like, it seems to be a hot movie right now. My accountant called me that his 13-year-old daughter was going to go see the movie.
Nice.
So like, it's weird things like that. So I'm dying to post a picture. Of course I want to take some credit,
Sure.
But it's hard for me to say, because yes, I didn't see the movie, and I know my thing is just like, literally, you might blink and not see what I don't know.
Right.
So that's the hard part, but and it was like it was a creepy woman type makeup.
I will tell you, right,
walking down a hallway.
Right. Well, there's two questions I have about that. Number one, the thing that made this movie stand out is what you had your hand in, which is why I'm very much encouraged by what you're saying. And also, like, I want to know, obviously, as much as I can, but obviously within reason for yourself, but just out of sheer interest. Because, we all grow up on the practical effects movies. You mentioned the Evil Dead stuff, like things like that were very formative in my brain. And so I'm sure you had heroes of it, whether it was like a Rick Baker or
Rob Bottin. I mean, listen, I'm a fan of every working makeup artist because I love what they all do.
Sure.
So I get it. Yeah, and practical. Of course, I love practical effects. I'm almost 50, so like I'm anti CGI. But
does this one have mostly practical? Like what you were seeing?
There was a lot,
doing,
but I will say this: nowadays, a movie at a certain budget, I'm not speaking way out of turn here, but like there was definitely going to be like, I know for a fact, even the bigger creature was always planned on being CGI.
Right.
That's the thing. Like nowadays it's so much product out there, like they have to reach that finish line. And sometimes it's easier to get the physical stuff that I do offset quicker
Sure.
because they always have more time. And I think it's a different budget. I think it goes into a post-production budget.
Sure.
So it's all about the money.
Yeah.
But I know like there was always intentions of using CGI in this movie.
Right.
But I know practical elements were built. And I know my buddy built like fake heads for this. He did throat slices. And I know things were going to be like, I believe, he does something. My buddy does something with the girl that was using a lot of the ad campaigns.
Yeah.
But I know like things were going to be helped out digitally. Like a lot of that is discussed.
Yeah.
Because nowadays they're just making the movies quicker.
Right. Yeah, and this movie, I actually love the story behind this. I don't know how much you're aware, because like you said,
I know it was a short film like that. That's the weird. Like I know all these little. Like I know everything that's going to ruin the movie for me. That's what. So like yes, I know all that stuff. I mean, I know I life casted a woman for this movie, and she was the lead of the short film.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like it was like so she was telling us all this stuff. So it was like really cool. But this was months, like a year ago. And then, being on set, I saw all the sets. I was there when they were filming. I watched them light indoor stuff on fire. I watched them light guys on fire.
I was about to say, do you have a choice in that? Like, are you just going around, does your movie set something on fire? Because I really need that in my life. Because if you're doing Goodnight Mommy, you're doing this, and it's like, you're like, hey, Ryan Murphy, by the way.
That's the thing. Well, nowadays, they'll pack everything, all of us together.
Yeah.
Even last night, I'm on a low budget movie, and they had myself, stunts, and physical effect guy, to do bullet hits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the way it works is we got to get all this in one day. We're gonna have all of them there in one day, so let's get it all done.
Right.
And then there's always a guy with some type of laptop thingy that he walks around with. So that's the guy that's gonna either make us look good or take our stuff completely out.
Exactly. Right. Which does that what makes you the most proud when you're kind of doing this stuff? Like, does like something like Smile to where it's number one at the box office, like you said, your accountant reaches out to you, like, do those things like just all help regardless of how much of an influence you were on it, or how does that work for you?
Like, listen, for me being the geek and the guy that just like since I was 13 wanted to make movies, you know what I mean? Like yeah, like it's a big deal. And plus I've never I worked with a company called Glass Eye Pix for years. They made movies like Stakeland, The Innkeepers. They've all done like huge like festivals. Like I've gotten like, I got huge claps at the Toronto Film Festival, After Dark Festival for the work I've done. Like I always seem to, there was a while there, like early in my career, I was in pages of Fangoria, like my name was getting mentioned. It was fun. Like in Variety reviews, but like nowadays, of course I love it. I love it. I mean, I also, all those smaller movies, they don't get a theatrical run.
Right.
They'll play a festival. They'll play New York City.
Right.
They'll play, this city for 2 days.
Yeah.
But like to have a movie that I worked on, like I did a musical, In the Heights. I helped my buddy,
right.
Josh
I saw that.
design the old age makeup.
Oh, okay.
On Abuela, like we aged her every day. Like Josh did a wonderful job, and I was like assisting him, and we were working together on that. So that was a big theater movie, and then the pandemic hit. That was one that maybe I could take my family that like for 20 years I've been making low budget horror movies. Like they could go out and see that movie.
Yeah.
So like I don't get like that big studio film, and like listen, I don't think I even get a credit for Goodnight Mommy in the credit rolling credits.
Right.
So just to hear that I got a credit on Goodnight Mommy was like, on Smile was awesome.
Yeah.
Because again, I was an applicator. The bigger guns made that.
Yeah.
I was only there a couple days.
Yeah.
So it was like, but to have that to be a number one movie, yeah, I'm dying to see that movie. And if my schedule wasn't, also listen, if it was, which I guess is a good thing, if it was available to stream right now, like, they do a lot of that where it's in theaters and
sure. Yeah.
That's
PVOD,
one of the movies that's not doing that right now.
Right.
I'd pay the $20 to see it at home. I would have watched it the night it came out. You know what I mean? It's just, I can't give up the movie theater. I just can't give the time up. Like if I was at home on the couch, I could kind of justify it, but going out to a movie, I was like, oh, I really should be building, or making this or just sleeping, but I'd give up sleep, just to watch the movie. So like, I'm done. And like the other good thing about that movie being a bigger movie, and doing so well, is like maybe it will stay in the theaters now another week where I can
Right.
go out and see it with, like, because even my nephew who's not a horror kid was like, oh, he just happened to mention, he's like, you got to watch this trailer.
Right.
And I was like, I worked on that movie. He had no, like,
Yeah.
If
Well,
it's
I
not
didn't
Fortnite,
until your co-host
Yeah.
blasted it out. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
well, I don't even know if I told him I did it because, again, it was a different name when I worked on it.
Right.
It was a completely different name.
Was it the same name as the short or some kind of
What was the
offshoot
short's
on-
name?
It was Laura
Was it like
Hasn't Slept.
No, it was like a really long person's name in the title. Like, it was a really long title.
Okay. But I imagine not Laura. So not Laura in there, even though she's the first person. Her name is the same, and the actress is the same.
It was definitely a different. Whatever happened to somebody else, like
probably the doctor or
probably.
Yeah.
And again, I watched Monitor with the cast, but I didn't deal specifically with this cast because none of them wore the prosthetics.
Right.
So like they're all there. I just, that's the one weird thing. It's a little bit like being a circus carny. Like we come into a town,
yeah,
and then we leave, So even my department on these movies, if I don't, a lot of times there's shows that I've worked on that I don't touch the leads.
Right. Yeah.
So like they might not know who I am. I'm on that show every day.
Yeah.
But they don't I don't really interact with them. Like even with the Marvel stuff, I did more on certain shows than I ever did on, on the lead, like on the, Daredevil and Punisher. I definitely had a hand in because I was with the leads more.
Right.
And putting on prosthetics made by Josh Torrey and stuff like that. So I was able to, interact more that way. So you be more of a familiar face. A lot of times you're just a hired gun and you just walk in and do your job.
Sure. Yeah, I know that feeling. I worked on movies and TV shows and stuff through college in my 20s and stuff like that before I went and into the office gigs more of film and TV offices or whatever. But, because Shane will attest, like I worked on a couple of high profile things. I won't shut up about it. It's like my own, like I peaked way too early. You're still at least like doing your stuff.
Well, see, I'm sort of starting over. Like I loved, and I still try to do an indie movie or two a year. When I'm in the middle of it, I'm always like, why am I doing this? This is the stupidest thing. Like I can make so much more money and I don't have to do anything.
Sure.
But it's the love of it. And it's the creativity that holds me there. But these, like I'm giving up a high profile job right now to do this smaller movie, but I really want to do the smaller movie. Right. You know what I mean? But that's simply for my ego. Yeah. Because again, I love those small movies I did. I really, because I built everything.
I was about to say,
it's me and my
it's
partner.
More experience.
Like it's everything on that screen I touched.
Yeah.
Whereas, I have to list a bunch of other people. Like when we talk about these bigger projects, again, I want to give credit to the guys that made everything.
Right.
And that's like, and I love being an applicator, but like once I joined that world, like the union world where you get to do those bigger shows.
Right.
Like I kind of started at the bottom then, like my first season of Daredevil, like if an appliance went on, I didn't put it on. I cleaned it off. So you start that way, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not complaining. That's like what you do.
Yeah.
And I had, a lot of fun and you learn a lot that way. But, that's what I'm saying. Like I did like 15, close to 20 years just where it was everything no sleepless night, and again, you don't make tons and tons, you're almost, you worked in low budget movies. So,
yeah.
It's like, so you got to do 30 of them just to, so you're always doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. If you're making
nice
scale, it's great.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And like, so it's much nicer now. Like I'm getting older, definitely heavier. So it's like, I can now go and enjoy some of the stuff that I get to work on now. And it's also, I'll admit it's totally ego, but it's so much cooler. Like where I don't have to describe and almost do a Kevin Bacon, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon to say who's in the movie I'm working on.
Well, now it's super easy for you. You had his daughter right in your face.
Yeah, like that's the cool part. Like it's like, wow, all right. I just say, well, I did a couple episodes of Orange Is the New Black. Everyone knows that show. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So it's much easier in that world because sometimes when you do these smaller movies, they're like, who?
Yeah.
Then you got to show them pictures and
that kind of thing.
So it is definitely like, and I'm a geek too, you know. I mean, it's cool to work on these movies. I mean, I want to go see it. You know, it's always been my, you know, it's probably some of that insufferable bastardness I get, you know, from our podcast, because I get angry that like some of those indie movies I worked on aren't as big.
Right.
Because I'm like, you know, those are just as good as some of the crap that's out there now, if and way better.
Sure.
But I do think like, you know, but it's still like, hey man, I'm, you know, what is that movie? Smile, a #1 movie. I'm damn right I'm gonna milk that. You know what I mean? Like, that's a huge movie or whatever. You know, I'm definitely gonna let people know, and that's why I can't wait to share things. You know, I just gotta wait it out, because I, you know, listen, if this bombed yesterday and just came out on VOD, I'd be, you know, we wouldn't be having this interview. And maybe you'd like the picture that maybe you'd like the picture that I post in 2 weeks, you know?
Right.
But I would get to that quicker. You know what I mean? Like, I would just put that out right away.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I'm not reaching out to you probably if we hated the movie,
know.
so
I
you
mean,
can
you know,
appreciate.
I'm a huge
we
ratings
probably
grab.
did,
You're
yeah.
a huge fan of Insufferable Bastards.
Exactly.
And just want, you know.
Yeah. We all travel in the same circles to
Yeah.
make a horror fest and all those things. That's great. So it's nice to have you on. Like I in my old podcasting days, I had you know, Carlos on, and that was
and
a
I was
mistake,
like, why are you
so.
on, Carlos? I'm the guy that worked on a Netflix show. Like, I worked on a, but you didn't do TV. You were doing movies.
We were doing movies, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have loved it if you worked on Apostle. That movie was damn good.
I
liked
didn't.
that movie.
Yeah, I didn't do Apostle. I did the other one that I didn't love. And they cut half our stuff out, but it was the Spider-Man kids, like, you know, Moody. What was that? Yeah.
Crap.
See, they're forgettable now.
They
That's the
are.
other problem with all these movies that come out. Like, it was okay, but not great, and had a good cast. Didn't go anywhere.
The devil all the time.
Devil all the time.
Yeah. Which, yeah, that was fine. It was kind of a throwback. It was good.
You wanted
know,
it to be better. That's all.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been, you know. And I got, you know, hey, I did Army of the Dead, and that was a huge extravaganza, you know, like, for a Netflix thing. And that was like big. That was big. Just working on that, you know.
Yeah.
That probably might be one of the bigger scale things I ever worked on.
Yeah, because I'm picturing obviously the sets for that, because you're probably working in that pseudo Las Vegas and everything. How what are you seeing there?
We went to Atlantic City and used the decommissioned. It's all, yeah. We used the decommissioned casinos.
Oh, okay.
And they shot half of it in New Mexico and then half of it in. And I had nothing to do with the New Mexico part.
Right.
And then they went to casinos and just built up a casino that was
when they were shooting
up.
Inside.
Yeah, when we were shooting all the stuff inside, you know.
Yeah.
Not even like the vault stuff, but like them just running the pool scene.
Yeah, which actually that was some of the cooler scenes that were in there.
I actually wound up thinking, because they began in New Mexico with a whole other crew and all the other makeup artists. Then they came to Atlantic City. I didn't think I thought we were going to be there's a lot of I was there for a lot of that.
Sure.
Which I didn't know. Like, you just didn't know. Also, I never saw an actor. I never saw, like, that's how big it was, because we would start at midnight to get 100 zombies ready by like 6 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was like crazy, you know, and like,
Yeah.
but it, you know, hey, we lived in Atlantic City for like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a good story. I mean, and those are those jobs, again, that you can like show the proof. Everybody's seen it. You could kind of feel the pride and do all that. And you were talking about like the uncredited thing. I worked on a short for Kevin Smith that was on the Tonight Show, and I remember because I was like 21 somewhere when they shot it, and I was so proud of it. And I gathered a whole bunch of people over my house. We watched it live on Jay Leno, whatever. And then the credits run at the end of the show, and every single person that I can remember on that set was there except for my name. And all my friends were like, come on, you weren't there. You saw whatever. So I feel you on the uncredited part, but at least you probably
That's
have
why I take a picture.
I
take a picture. You know, my job requires me to take a picture so I can then show it later.
Yeah. If anything on that one, I was like, that's my car in this scene. And like, this is what it was so small that I could be like, this is me of parts of me anyway. But yeah, it was a tough sell. My friends were like, come on, we stayed up late for this.
And that's the other thing. Like, I went from these indie movies. Hey man, I got my name on posters. You know what I mean? Like,
that's awesome.
So that was always cool. Like, I do dig that. Like that, you know, while you don't make a huge chunk of change, you could always you're given the recognition.
Right.
And then, but then now I'm at the age where I don't care anymore. Like, don't put my name, just pay with it, just sign the check. Like now I don't care. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, but it's still like, listen, I still like, sometimes I'll definitely get a disc or a movie I worked on and I will fast forward to the end. And I will say, like, is my name in this credits? Because if it is, I might like it more. If it's not, then hey man, free reign. I can say whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly. So, Brian, what do you guys got coming up for Insufferable Bastards?
Oh, I don't know. Some of that we just plan on the fly. I know we've talked about doing a couple things. We want to talk about Dahmer.
Okay.
We want to talk, I don't think we have, because I think we've released I thought we were going to bank, because next week I'm not around. I know we've both watched a little bit of Andor.
Mm.
But, we don't know.
Your love-hate with the modern Star Wars? Yeah.
Well, yes. We want to, help you guys find better things to watch.
Exactly.
So that's our goal. That's our mission statement for our Insufferable Bastards. But we literally sometimes just say, hey, did you watch anything this week? So there's probably a lot less planning in our show. We try to be a little bit more planning. Carlos does a really good job.
Right.
I know we just did the movie endings that we liked.
Yes.
And I thought that was it's a long one. It's a tier, but I love those tier ones when we could just kind of volley back and forth and just talk movies.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely like the bonus with those. And I think you guys put it out on Twitter, and we know, I don't know if we might have been even mentioned on that episode too, because
we always try to mention you guys.
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to start fights, so you guys will have us on,
right?
And then we'll have again, it's all old. Like, everyone's giving us a hard time because we covered some Howard Stern stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, we do that because we want those radio awards. Like, I don't want to make fun of you guys, but if it catches your attention, and then we have that back and forth, it just promotes the shows even bigger.
Yeah.
We can all be friends.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's better to make fun of each other. Listen, all this hatred sells better on the internet. We just got to fake it all.
It's true. That's probably how I started listening to you guys in the first place, because you fight with John from The Pint all the time.
Yeah.
And whenever he's on, I'm like, oh, let me listen. Yeah.
And listen, we know when we say that Tombstone sucks, we know that's going to be like, it's a hot button issue. We know that. We're not dummies.
Yeah.
We know when we're going to make fun of a Marvel project. We know, we're not mainstream. That is not, we're losing the war here, folks.
Yeah.
But we're still fighting the battle. And listen, we also watch all of it. That's the other thing. As much as we sit down and we watch it all, I guess, we're also kind of, all of us, we're all just basically pop culture. We're all nerds just talking about the movies we watched the week before.
Exactly.
So I'm sure it will be something like that.
Yeah. Well, it was great talking to you, man. This was a great experience, and obviously I wish you luck on your project you're heading to right now, as well as returning back to American Horror Story. So that's incredible, man. So best of luck.
Well, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Oh,
yeah, nice
absolutely.
meeting you, bud.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you to Brian Spears. That was an awesome interview. Guys, go check out the Insufferable Bastards podcast. Those guys like to talk a lot of shit, but they're great. We love them. It was great having Brian on. So, and obviously we all want you to check out Smile, which obviously he just did. And we're going to review that one now, because we felt a little bit weird to do it right in front of his face, especially as a person who worked on it, but also hasn't seen it in full. So I couldn't wait to talk about this movie after it ended. This was #1 at the box office this past weekend. Written and directed by Parker Finn. Like we mentioned in the Brian Spears interview, this is based on a South by Southwest winning short film called Laura Hasn't Slept, which starred Caitlin Stassi, who is also in this movie as Laura Weaver. If you've seen the movie, she is the opening one. She is also the prominent one in the trailer as the patient in question. It's a little bit different, like the short. It's available online, but you really kind of have to dig for it. I went through like a Reddit post on it, which ironically, the director, Parker Finn, answered the question to the person on Reddit to be like, yeah, it's hard to find because it's going to be on the Blu-ray and all this stuff. So look for that, obviously, as it comes out. But right now it's still in theaters and kicking ass. This movie stars Sosie. Is it Sosie Bacon?
I think it is.
Okay. It's a very unique name. Sosie Bacon as Dr. Rose Cotter, Kyle Gallner as Joel, which you might have seen him in Scream earlier in the year, Robin Weggert as Dr. Madeline Northcott, plus smaller roles by Cal Penn, Jesse T. Usher from The Boys. I'm sure Shane perked up when A-Train's sitting in this movie. Judy Reyes, who you might know a long time on Scrubs. Caitlin Stassi, as we mentioned, and Rob Morgan is also in this film. You see him in the trailer in kind of like a mental facility prison type situation there. The scores, 76% on Rotten Tomatoes, 81% audience score, 68 Metascore, 7.0 on IMDb, and a 3.2 on Letterboxd. This film is about, as we previously mentioned, Sosie Bacon's character, Dr. Rose Cotter, who starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain as an overwhelming terror begins taking over her life. She must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. Man, this movie, like, I saw the trailer all the time, every time I'd go to the movies, and yet I was still like, yeah, I want to see it because it creeped me out. We had mentioned the viral marketing campaigns. Did you see any of these, Shane? Did you see any of them in real time, or did you catch them? Because like the baseball one, I saw like a baseball game where just they had the person just staring and smiling at the camera, and I was like freaked out.
Yeah, I heard about that, but I didn't actually catch any of that, and I think that's so smart because this movie, they put a lot into the marketing, and it isn't a very easy movie to market. But I did miss all that stuff, unfortunately.
It's very cool. They did sporting events. They did Good Morning America. I guess they did that too, because it's so easy to just have that person kind of just do the stare and the smile, and then that's everything. That just in an instant reminds you exactly what this film is. This film was originally planned as a low budget streaming only release for Paramount Plus, which, by the way, shout out to Paramount. Fucking absolutely killing it. Come on, man. Like it seems like every time, like, oh, this movie like defied expectations. It's all been Paramount this year. Top Gun Maverick, etc. So killing it, Paramount. Great job. The film was screened for test audiences, though, and it scored so much higher than they anticipated. So they gave this a theatrical run. And as we mentioned, it is number one at the box office over the weekend. It grossed $22 million over the weekend, which basically all the Paramount people are like, it exceeded their wildest expectations. And it's a huge feat for a first-time feature film writer-director in Parker Finn. So congratulations to everyone involved. Shane, before I go on my long diatribe, or at least so I could stop talking, what did you think of this film, man? Because this is a film, much like Barbarian, I actually almost wish I knew less about it going in. But all the stuff, a lot of it in the trailers is there. But, man, you don't know what you're in for when this movie unfolds.
Right, correct. It's another solid entry into this year for horror movies.
Absolutely.
It is a really solid movie. And, of course, you can definitely pick up on the influences of It Follows and The Ring. I mean,
The Ring is the big one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I had minor issues with the film, but overall, I agree with all the scores and the critics. And I tend to lean more towards the audience score of this movie. Mm-hmm. I like the lead, Sosie Bacon. She kind of had that Hilary Swank, Kate Mara vibe going for me in this movie. Because I've never seen her in anything, but I like her character background. I think I had slightly more issues with her being a likable character, because usually any movie I watch, I have to have someone I could like gravitate and root for. Right. And as this process is going along, she was a hard person for me to kind of latch onto and root for as everything's kind of breaking down for her.
It's true. It takes a while, at least, I would say.
Right, especially with the interactions, not so much with A-Train, but her ex, played by Kyle Gallner. It's like, all right, you were asking for all this help, but you're really not, like, I don't know. She was a hard character to like, but no, I love the tone of this movie. Brian was talking about like the old gritty, not so sheen, and I felt like this movie, the sheen was kind of off it a little bit. Yeah. Kind of like some of the movies this year, kind of reminded me of Barbarian in certain ways. The score I thought was very 70s ish. I thought the score was, and I loved it.
Yeah.
This movie had a lot right going for it for this type of movie. I just wish, and we'll talk about it, they would have went into a little bit more of the mythos of, and they did a
How
little
this
bit.
all
But
kind of went through.
yeah. So a little ticky-tack stuff like that. But I normally don't like jump scares, but I like the ones in this movie. It was effective, and it was unsettling and unnerving in parts. And that's what I like about horror movies. And this one kind of nailed everything for me in that aspect. So I walked away, was like, wow, I really like that film.
Yeah. I will say, you know, a movie is good and effective when you have that walk back to the parking lot. And I saw this movie alone. And it was one of those, like, head on a swivel, you know, like, hey, where did that light come from? What? Huh? And you're like, it's like 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock at night, and you're like, huh? What was that noise? You know, you're like freaking yourself out before it goes. Which, by the way, also, because I had watched the short film before we came on the mics tonight. But I was like, yeah, let me watch that, and then I'll try to like catch like a 15-20 minute nap before we're up all night. What, am I dumb? I watched the whole movie. The short has to be similar, and I'm like, yeah, let me do that and try to close my eyes and go to sleep.
Yeah, good luck.
Dumb. Yeah. But you're right. This movie, I was ready to give this movie like a 3.5 maybe, because like the jump scares were absolutely legit. But the story was kind of just fine. You're like plodding along, and then there's a turn where Sosie Bacon's character, her therapist, comes back into the fold, and basically the last third of this movie just does a kickflip and just goes absolutely bonkers with kind of like the extreme horror, the aggressiveness, and what I said to Brian was true. I thought a lot of this stuff was practical because it looked really good. And it looked like authentic. I don't know if it's how it's lit or how the digital art or whatever they did, but I was so impressed with how they did all the ending stuff in the house and all that stuff. So I honestly had a harder time dealing with this ending than Barbarian.
Wow. Okay. Well,
so,
it's
because I thought it was more personal, and then it like grew from there. It caught me off guard where I was just like, I'm not looking this thing dead in the face.
Yeah, right. They like her gradual mental breakdown. It is like definitely different than Barbarian, which was more cartoony, more B horror level. So you kind of laugh at that stuff.
Yeah.
But this one here, like, and that's why I loved Bacon's performance in here. It's like just that gradual breakdown, of her character, and like the script being flipped on her. With, she didn't believe the girl that came in, and she couldn't get anyone to believe what she was going through. Yeah. Except for her ex-boyfriend or fiance, who ends up getting fucked at the end of this movie anyway.
Yeah. And that should tell you, don't care about your exes. Just let it go. Just move on. Especially if they're talking crazy shit. Be like, that sounds like somebody else's problem. Where's your husband at? Or your fiance or whatever. Like, you moved on, lady. Don't do this. We've all been there, man, where we're like, oh, my ex called and she needs my help. Nope. Just don't
answer. Don't answer.
Don't answer.
Text.
Yeah. But I'll say, Matt, like, I don't know if I'm speaking to it well enough, but this movie's like top 10 was almost in my top 5. Like, it's high for me for the year. Like, and I don't know if that sits the same way for you, but I will say I liked it. Weirdly, I liked it better than Barbarian, but not by much, but I liked it better than Barbarian. And so for me, this is my favorite horror movie of the year. I can say that bar none. Where do you sit on that kind of a conversation?
Honestly, it's up there for me. It's definitely probably top 2. It's between this and Barbarian. For me, I give Barbarian a slight edge, but if I had to sit down and rewatch one, it would be this movie. I could probably watch this several times. Where Barbarian, to me, it's like we discussed. Once you see that turn, you're like, okay, the shine kind of comes off the movie, then you could whatever. Yeah. But this one has definitely more rewatchability for me. Here's my little just tiny hang up, and I won't spoil anything for you.
Sure.
Kind of like It Follows or any of these cursed movies. I understood the ending, but it's so predictable. I'm like, I wish they would have just, I don't know, changed the ending a little bit as far as like,
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to say. I don't want to. People need to see this movie. If you're a horror fan, go watch this movie. I just wish they would have mapped out the ending just slightly different than what they did.
Yeah, I wonder what a sequel will look like. That because that kind of is how you kind of feel about how they left things, right? Where
Right.
it does feel a little predictable, but basically the effects, the gore, the whole thing was so good that it didn't matter anymore because
Right.
they set it up very well throughout the movie, even though some of it felt like a little methodical, little plotting or whatever. And that's why I said, like, I was like, oh, this is pretty good, but whatever. And then when the last third of the movie kicked in, I was like, oh man. And I just buckled up, like you're in for the ride there. And that's what I enjoyed about this one so much was it just didn't let you go. So like maybe if you had little issues with it, they just kind of melt away because you're just immersed in it and just terrified.
Right.
Like when you're talking, I mention this a lot, but it's like later Tool video shit this time. Maybe not claymation or whatever, but like definitely like when the person there's like a character who like sheds its skin or something. You're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you talked about that creature. I love that creature was freaky as hell.
Yes.
Like when she got out of the bedroom and she kept getting taller and bigger, I was like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very effective. And like you said, when you shed the skin, I was like, oh God.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most impressive part of the movie. You're not in it totally for the plot stuff. Like you said, maybe that could have been a little clearer about how things transfer. And even with the Rob Morgan aspect of it, where they kind of confront him because he, has maybe a way around it and what those things entail or whatever. That was a nice kind of like pivot for a minute, but it didn't hold for very long, which I guess you can't because it's her story. But a lot of it's about mental health. And I actually do like that. But in the same way Barbarian talked about things but didn't make it all about it, this is kind of what that is too. So I'd be interested to see, what a sequel looks like. Because same thing, like The Ring 2, nobody talks about The Ring 2, but people will talk about their experience when they saw The Ring for the first time. I wonder if this movie, in terms of its construction, has enough for a sequel or what that looks like. I mean, they'll probably do one regardless, but I'd be interested to see.
I was going to say, Andrew, I mean, if they don't have enough material, they brought in the money this weekend. I think they'll bring in it next weekend as well, just because it doesn't really have anything going up against it, except Amsterdam, which we can talk. I don't think that'll supplant this as number one.
Dude, raked over the coals.
Smile's going to make enough money whether we want a sequel or not. As long as they take their time with it, I'm fine because I'll buckle into this franchise and watch the second movie, regardless of where they go with the plot or the character or,
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff online you were saying, like, as far as competition. Like, there's a lot of stuff next week that if you're in the horror bent, there's some things available, like Mike Flanagan's Midnight Club and Mr. Harrigan's Phone on Netflix and Hellraiser on Hulu. So there'll be like some options, but honestly, like this movie was very good. So if people haven't seen it, it's high praise time for me, where I'm probably giving this somewhere. I'm like between a 3.5 and a 4. Because like I said, this is like, I looked at it. It's number 7 for me for the year. So it's pretty high up there because I haven't been chilled like that in a long time. And I always say, like, I go by the William Goldman effect of make your movie end well and people will remember it way more than if your movie started great and then ended mediocre. So if you have the people just flying to back to their cars and going home, then you did a great job. So that's why, to me, this is like, if we want to do that whole cheat code thing, like a 3.75. But if I was pushed, I don't know, man. I'm on the fence between a 3.5 and a 4. How about you?
I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah.
Only because, like I said, it's a smidge behind Barbarian for me. And if I gave Barbarian a 4, I think I gave it a 4. Then this is right there with it. Again, my second favorite horror movie of the year. It's a solid 4 for me.
Yeah, man, and it makes me encouraged because this is sending us into, we're in October now, so we're really getting into the hell-bent part of the season, right? And we're hopefully going to see more and more good stuff. I don't know about theatrically, like how much it's going to be great. There's a ton of streaming options, so we'll probably end up talking about most of those. Did you catch any other like kind of horror? Have you started spooky season, like scary season?
Oh yeah, I started over the course of the last week actually. After our missed co-host tonight, Chris, mentioned that he saw Speak No Evil, and I'm glad I watched that movie. That's a question.
Yeah,
it went places where it made me viscerally upset, and I haven't been viscerally upset at a movie, and it was a good movie.
Okay,
which I think people should explore it, but just be ready. I mean, when you talk about a crazy last third of a movie, because it is a slow build until everything just explodes at the end.
Right.
And again, I was left mouth agape, mad, angry. So, it brings up a lot of emotions. So
yeah,
well done on that, but it is a tough watch.
Yeah, again, like Chris gave all the trigger warnings abound of, especially like if you're a parent, it's going to be a big deal. So obviously 2 weeks in a row, we're saying positive things, but also beware and don't blame us if something goes wrong. It can't be like, yeah, go see it. But trust me, if you have any kind of, holding back on that, then maybe don't.
Right.
Did you? So any other kind of scary stuff? Because you did the Shudder free trial or whatever, right?
Yep, and I watched a movie you brought up already on this show, Watcher, which again another very slow burn of a movie.
Yeah,
but when it pops at the end, it pops.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed that movie as well, and I had a short run. So those are the two I've watched so far. And of course, like you mentioned, I'm not a big Hellraiser fan, but I hear it's getting good buzz, so I'm going to give that a shot this week.
Okay.
You know me, I'm a big Mike Flanagan fan, so of course I'm watching that. So yeah, I think we're going to have a very good month.
Yeah, I not to end again on a down note like you were talking last week, but Amazon Prime missed the beat again because I actually turned on my best friend's Exorcism because it kind of felt like kind of like a more fun 80s, trying to get like the fun aspect, but also have that kind of cheeky 80s horror bent to it.
Right.
Like it's a teen, it's like a high school story. It's like couple of friends back in 1988, Abby and Gretchen, who they're like best friends their whole lives, and one of them, they end up investigating this kind of like spooky abandoned house near the lake or whatever, and one of them ends up getting possessed by the devil. So it turns on its head. It tries to say certain things, maybe like in a social political bent, but not too much. It's very flat. It's doesn't have a ton of propulsion to it. It's just weak. Let's put it that way. It's very weak. I turned it on. I was like, oh, Elsie Fisher from 8th grade and some other, and Barry is in this. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. And I was thoroughly disappointed and was just trying to stay awake for that one. So that one didn't work out so much. But that is, it's on Amazon Prime. So if you see it, again, a different type of warning, boredom warning versus like it's going to shock you to your core warning, which we've had to this point. But this is good, man. Like I said, we have a bunch of stuff coming up. You're right. Like we'll probably end up talking Hellraiser and Mr. Harrigan's Phone. I'm covering probably Mr. Harrigan's Phone for what's on Netflix. So I'll be writing that review up for them, and then we'll end up talking about it on here. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. So everybody, stay glued on your couch and stop watching, the Munsters or Hocus Pocus for a minute, and turn on something that might actually, give you that vibe, that horror vibe that we've been talking about for much of this episode. So Thank you, Shane. Great stuff as always, buddy. And thank you to everybody listening. And we'll see you next week on Recent Activity.